Part 92. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 918. Chapter 910. Don't be here. The Bloody City. The Bloody City, which had been bombarded for some time by the two great magical powers of Leifa and Golden Crow, had fallen into complete chaos. There was charred blackness everywhere. The ghosts who were lucky enough to survive wanted to dig a tunnel and hide in it, for fear that it would be affected again and their deaths would be worthless. In such deathly silence, Shen Jian walked leisurely among the ruins. Guanghui Ghost God walked aside and curled his lips. You have a very bad conscience. The cakes are drawn one after another. You are not afraid that this god Mengpo will take it seriously. If you can't give it in the future, you will be in a dilemma. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows and the old god said, this is not an ordinary cake. It is big, round, and very delicious. Moreover, the position of King of Hell will be given away sooner or later. Painting cakes is painting cakes, but he did consider giving away the position of Yama. After all, he alone occupies the position of the 10 halls of Yama, and all 10 Yama halls must be controlled by him. Now that the underworld is still running, the workload is indeed not large, and he can always control it. Only once the last 6 paths of reincarnation are unlocked, the underworld will officially enter a busy stage. The first palace is King Qingguang, the 5th palace is Yama Palace, and the 10th palace is Chakravartin Palace. They will be the busiest places. The other 7 Yama halls each have their own responsibilities. Only through division of labor and cooperation among the 10 palaces can the development of the underworld be maintained. But if he holds 10 temples by himself, all the work must be completed by him. Even if he is made of iron, he cannot accomplish what requires 10 Yama halls by himself. In this situation, giving the position of Yama to him is undoubtedly the best choice. Certainly. This premise is that he has obtained the status of Emperor Fendu. Only by first becoming the true lord of the underworld and truly integrating all the priestly talents of the 10 palaces of Yama, can he strip off the status of the king of hell from his body. Now. Not the right time yet. Hear the words. The glorious ghost looked at Shen Jian strangely. She also partially understood the scumbag, and even guessed his intentions. Therefore, when Shen Jian entered the Eli dungeon for the first time and stepped into the Elim temple for the first time, she handed over Luo Feng's natural authority without much hesitation. Because she knows that once she refuses, the other party will 100% reject her. But she didn't expect that Shen Jian would be willing to hand over the foundation for his livelihood. It is simply impossible to do it without a little bit of courage. How much do you know about the Buddhist country? Shen Jian asked. His understanding of the Buddhist kingdom is mainly based on these 2 people. Cleopatra, Bones Bodhisattva. The former let him know that the 4th place, Luo Fengtian, is where the Buddha kingdom is located, and how powerful the Buddha kingdom is. The latter once again confirmed the profound foundation of the Buddhist kingdom and let him know that the Buddhist kingdom is actually located in the ghost realm and is a pocket Buddha kingdom. The real 4th place, Luo Fengtian, is an undeveloped land. Everything is held together by fragments of the Sansei stone. He wanted to know what the glorious ghosts and gods knew about the Buddhist kingdom. Do you know the master of the Buddhist kingdom or the source behind it? The glorious ghost frowned. The red lips parted. I don't know much. Like God Mengpo, I used part of my faith to step into this land. It's really wonderful there. As soon as I entered, I found that I inevitably became another person. A person had a brand new identity. I was very shocked and found it novel at the time, so I spent 3 reincarnations there. I learned that in every reincarnation, a Buddhist son will be born in the Buddhist kingdom. The identity of the Buddha son in each life is different. In this life, he is a beggar, in the next life he may be a child of a noble family, and in the next life he may become a child. You need to break your identity and give up your lifelong obsession, and a new reincarnation will begin again. The entire Buddhist kingdom is revolving around this Buddhist son. Once he dies, the Buddhist kingdom will restart. Once he loses his identity, a new reincarnation will start simultaneously. It can be said that the world revolves around him. I play after 3 times. After understanding the operating mode of the Buddhist kingdom, I withdrew my belief in the incarnation. The glorious ghosts and gods began to tell. Subsequently, with a sigh of relief, he concluded, in general, the source behind this Buddhist kingdom is a slut. He plays the leading role at home every day, and also coaxes the entire Luo Fengtian creature to accompany him to complete all this. It's fun over and over again, I never get tired of it. Shen Jian. He looks strange. But if you think about it carefully, this is really the leading role. The so-called Buddha is actually the will of Ksatagarbha. Every reincarnation he goes through seems to start randomly, but in fact, as he gradually loses his identity, all the resources of the Buddha kingdom will be used for him. His identity will reach its peak at the moment when he realizes his true nature. Restore the image of the Buddha as he once was. This rhythm of first suppressing and then ascending, this step-by-step path to the top, is not the protagonist. And this kind of drama needs to be played 100 times. It's no wonder that I got tired of it after playing it 3 times. If it were him, he would be tired of it. Certainly. If he were replaced by a Buddhist disciple, whether he would be tired or not is another matter. Think of this. Shen Jian smiled and said teasingly, "You are indeed a slut." Right, the dignified lord of the Buddhist kingdom has such a hobby, I don't know what he thinks. I'm not much better, I like to peek. The words fell. The expression on the glorious ghost's face froze. The look in his eyes became more and more different. She seemed to have thought of something, and her face immediately panicked. You noticed it at the time." Her tone showed tension. Then he thought about the scene where he was watching a show in secret, but was called out by Shen Jian on the spot. From this moment on, she knew that Shen Jian could actually detect her traces. In other words, when she secretly hid in the bedroom and spied on Shen Jian and Leah having sex, she might have been discovered long ago, but the other party didn't tell her. Then was she also discovered when she secretly used her hands? The more I think about it, the eyes of Guanghui Ghost and God became more and more panicked. He looked like he was a thief with a guilty conscience. A touch of shame crept up her body quietly. "Are you enjoying yourself enough?" Shen Jian did not answer, but asked a question. "The meaning is already obvious, I not only noticed it, but also saw you chanting water magic with my own eyes." This time, the glorious ghost's breath was stagnant. A cloud of clouds immediately appeared on his face. "I can't wait to find a crack in the ground and crawl into it. Damn it!" When this bastard saw it, he actually pretended that nothing had happened and let her enjoy everything. No wonder she always felt that the visual effect was great. From her perspective, she could see everything. She originally thought it was luck, but now that she thinks about it, it was clearly Shen Jian's deliberate decision. The purpose is to let her third party see clearly. She became a part of the opponent's play. Nonsense. Abnormal. He actually likes to have people watching. The glorious ghost spat. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Approaching step by step. His eyes were strange and he said, "What? You just need a little quirk, and you don't allow me to have it too." Said. He stretched out his hand, wrapped one hand around the slender waist of Guanghui Ghost God, and said mysteriously, "You also know that I am the winner of the martial arts competition. Logically speaking, you are now my bride, and I am your husband." Hear the words. The glorious ghost's mind went blank. Her delicate body was hugged all over, and she could not help but feel dizzy as she smelled the hot yang energy coming from her nose, and her breathing became slightly hotter. You have been thinking this way. Don't forget, I am still Leah's master. She respects me so much. If she knows that you have defiled me, she will be sad. The glorious ghosts and gods retreated step by step. I don't have enough confidence to say what I said. Nothing else. Just because Shen Jian had seen the most shameful side of her. Without that experience, she would have refused outright, but now, she felt that she might not be so firm. We can't do this. The glorious ghosts and gods reasoned. Finally, he couldn't retreat and leaned against the wall. Why not? If you are worried about Leah, then I can tell you that Leah will definitely be more excited if she knows that she can lie on the same bed with you. And Lila, do you think she is opposed or supportive? Shen Jian slowly approached and pressed his left hand against the wall. The distance between the two is getting closer and closer. The proud capital pressed against his chest. Shen Jian's eyes were hot, his breath was blowing on the face of the glorious ghost, and his lips were close to it. Just when Guanghui Gishan thought Shen Jian would kiss him, Shen Jian's face gently brushed past his cheek. The moment their cheeks touched, the hot temperature, soft touch, and electric shock-like breath made Guanghui Gishan, the whole body becomes hot and dry. Despite her rich life experience and such a special quirk, in fact, she has never experienced anything like this. After all, she has too high standards. As the oldest being born from supernatural beliefs, she was a ghost and deity when she was born. Later, she was promoted to the world-destroying level ghost and deity without any pressure. When she looked back, she had become a glorious ghost and deity with millions of followers. There was no one in the entire horror world that could catch her eye. It wasn't until Shen Jian appeared that he had the first one. Otherwise, how could she hide quietly and spy on Shen Jian and Lia's drama? Now, the only man who could catch her eye was launching the fiercest intimate offensive against her. It made her whole body burn. Rapid heartbeat. The voice also seemed more and more coquettish, completely lacking the true temperament before. No, no way. The words have not yet finished. Shen Jian had already seized the opportunity and kissed those fragrant lips. Not rejecting, accepting. Shen Jian ran through this concept very well. The glorious ghosts and gods didn't push him away on the spot, which meant that he had a chance, but he couldn't appear too eager. So, Shen Jian just kissed her gently. He tightly hugged Guanghui Gishan's soft waist, making their bodies stick together tightly, leaving no gaps. For a long time, the glorious ghosts and gods also entered the state. He began to respond to Shen Jian's enthusiasm without any instruction. Not only did he stand on his tiptoes, he also reached out and hooked Shen Jian's neck, pressing his whole body weight on him with passion. See this. Shen Jian became bolder. Start to explore. The glorious ghost grabbed Shen Jian's troubled hand and said in a trembling voice. Don't be here, go to the room. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 919. The next day. The sky in the bloody city remains at 6 o'clock in the evening all year round. A little light, but generally dim. On such a day. In a completely intact inn-room, the very dry air was filled with the scent of lust. As the field of vision narrowed, the two bodies gradually became clearer. The man is tall, and the muscular lines of his body are as flawless as those of ancient Greek statues. No one can find any flaws, just like art. The woman has a slender frame but a plump figure. Her body is as white as mutton fat, white jade, as if she had been dead for 7 days and 7 nights. Shen Jian woke up from his passive talent that could not be seen directly. A pair of dark and lustrous swirling pupils dissipated the moment he opened his eyes. I just felt a little itchy between my noses. Take a closer look. What came into view was a jade face with a mixture of anger and joy. The radiant ghost was facing him, lying in a pair of smooth long hair, each strand of hair exuding a gleaming luster, with two eyes slightly closed. He looked like he was still awake. But her disordered breathing revealed the fact that she had already woken up at this moment. Shen Jian laughed. He glanced at this plump and delicate snow-white body. It should be said that the glorious ghosts and gods are indeed powerful. The terrifying level that is infinitely close to the disaster level ghosts and gods has blessed her with a super strong physique, making her more courageous as she fights. When he thought that he had used filth to taint this most holy and flawless goddess of faith in the minds of millions of believers, causing her to show her worst side in front of him, Shen Jian felt a huge sense of conquest and accomplishment in his heart. He gently smoothed the messy long hair on Guanghui Gishan's cheeks, and felt her body tremble slightly. Shen Jian smiled wickedly, leaned down to her earlobe, and exhaled, "Master, it's time to wake up." Woke up. Glorious ghost. Seeing that she could no longer pretend, she suddenly opened her eyes, looked at Shen Jian in astonishment, and said coquettishly with a pair of shy blue eyes. "What did you call me?" "Master, look, you said yourself that you are Leah's master, and I am Leah's man. You are naturally equivalent to half of my master. Then it is normal for me to call you master. Then someone would do this to his master." Guanghui Ghost glanced at Shen Jian's big hand on his waist, a hint of drunkenness brewed on his cheeks, and he was extremely embarrassed. What has she done? He actually managed to get it from this scumbag in a daze. He wouldn't think that he is a casual person. And master, what a shame. She felt hot all over when she thought of Shen Jian calling her master and contradicting her at the same time. His body could not help but curl up. Li cannot be allowed to know about this matter, let alone Lila. The glorious ghost warned. Leah is her saint and her spokesperson, but to a certain extent, she is indeed Leah's master. If Leah knew that the goddess she believed in was having an affair with her man, she would not know what to expect. She wanted to put an end to this. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows, touched the red lips of the glorious ghost with his fingers, and the ghost's voice sounded, "I was not talking nonsense at the beginning." If Leah knew that the goddess she believed in was lying on the same bed with her, she would definitely be filled with happiness. "Aren't you going to help your saint fulfill this wish?" The glorious ghost rolled his eyes at Shen Jian and said angrily, "Don't think that I don't know what you are thinking, and even if Leah has such a wish, it should be on the surface, not what you think." "What do I think? Tell me." "Bah, what a scumbag." In response to Shen Jian's provocation, she spat out very simply. Who wouldn't know that Shen Jian's appetite is getting bigger and bigger? A threesome couldn't satisfy him anymore. He also wanted to drag her into the water. There was no way she would agree to this dog man. Wrong. It should be to prevent him from getting closer. Otherwise, you might be fooled into being scammed at some point. "Get up, I need to change my clothes, they're all rotten." Guanghui Gishan slapped Shen Jian's hand away angrily. Although she can also directly use the supernatural powers of faith to put on a layer of clothes, this trick is of no use to the Lord of the Underworld. In the eyes of the other party, the disguise she puts on with faith is probably just like the Emperor. The new clothes are the same. Shen Jian is not annoyed either. He smiled and raised his hands. Too much is not enough. First instill such a concept into this good master, and it will naturally take root in the future. Being too eager may have the opposite effect. Not long after, the glorious ghost has put on a set of real clothes. A strand of hair was twisted in the palm of her dead white fingers. Then, throw down a golden dragon that was imprisoned. He snorted, "This is a reward for your performance last night. After today, just treat it all as a dream." The words fell. The glorious ghosts and gods disappeared immediately. The body of faith dissipated in front of Shen Jian. Only a sonorous and powerful groan was left. Shen Jian? He was slightly startled. Looking at the golden dragon on the bed who looked aggrieved towards him, his facial muscles twitched. This is the last dragon energy of Zhoujuyan Tian Palace. It was also the one he originally asked the glorious ghosts to go to the 5th place, Luo Fengtian, to look for. However, due to special reasons, he collected enough dragon energy in advance and no longer needed this last dragon energy. Did not expect. The glorious ghost finally got this dragon energy. Is this considered a bounty? He looked strange. It always feels weird. There is a sense of déjà vu that I am a male model and I am being tipped by a female customer to end the relationship between them. Quite novel. Suppressing this strange feeling, Shen Jian still collected the tip from the rich woman. Although the authority of Zhoujuyan Tian Palace has been recovered, with this article, it is truly complete. This is indeed what he needs. If you are voted for by a woman, then be voted by a woman. Soon. Shen Jian came to Begui Club. 6 former members of the underworld, headed by the Dachan Ghost King, stood aside tremblingly, while Po Meng handed over the 5th Luo Feng heavenly authority in her hand. Sir, since the resurrection of the underworld, the authority of the Mingchen Wuchen Celestial Palace has been broken into 3 parts. One part is jointly controlled by the 100 Demons Association, the Rebirth Pavilion, and the Yinshen Palace. They are all here. Shen Jian nodded slightly. The smile in his eyes flashed away. Without the task of reclaiming Luo Fengtian's permissions, his focus on collecting permissions dropped. But Luo Feng's 6 heavens was originally the inheritance of the underworld. As the lord of the underworld, he could not let it be lost in the horror world and become ownerless. Shen Jian took back his authority. At the same time, a scarlet panel emerged. It has been detected that the player King Yama has obtained the permission to invade the Wuchen Heavenly Palace in the Ming Dynasty and become the Lord of Luo Fengtian. There you have obtained the following permissions. 1. Players can modify all copy information by themselves, and can create copies at will, and it will affect the entire Luo Fengtian. 2. The player's name resounds throughout the Bloody City. 3. As the Lord of Luo Fengtian in this place, the player can ban the ownership of all copies, make them invalid, and unable to generate copies. The local residents of this supernatural place become ownerless souls. 4. Players can open a passage to the human world at will, the number of people who can pass through, unlimited. 5. Players do not need to continue participating in the dungeon that Luo Fengtian belongs to. They can check any dungeon by themselves and it will no longer be effective for players. 6. Bloody City is a 7-star dungeon. The minimum entry level is 6-star difficulty. It is currently unavailable. Players can create a low-star difficulty dungeon by themselves, clear Luo Fengtian, and connect to the horror game. Note, the minimum difficulty level must not be lower than 5 stars. Densely packed scarlet fonts flashed in front of Shen Jian. He glanced casually. Notice the last permission. Think for a moment. It is currently known that the deep-level ghost realms that players can enter include Zhoujhuayan Tiangong, Qingguo, Taisha Liangshi Zongtian Palace, Entertainment City, and Zongfei Kailing Tiangong, Ile Empire. No player has entered Luo Fengtian, the 4th place where the Buddha Kingdom is located, yet. The same goes for Blood City. Because there are no qualified players. The highest difficulty level of Bloody City is 7-star. If players want to open it by themselves, they need to be at least a 6-star player before the Bloody City dungeon will appear. The Buddha country is a super large supernatural place that is more terrifying than the Bloody City. The highest difficulty level is at least 8 stars. If a player wants to activate it, he or she must be a 6-star player at least, or even a 7-star player to have any hope. As the leader of Luo Fengtian there, he can create a dungeon with a minimum difficulty of 5 stars, so that 5-star players can appear in the Bloody City. This was the first time Shen Jian knew about this kind of authority. In this case, What about the Buddhist country? Since the source behind the Buddha kingdom has complete authority over Luo Fengtian, it means that he also has the possibility to modify the difficulty of the dungeon to allow players to enter it. In addition, the Buddhist country is best at brainwashing. If a player has already entered it, been brainwashed, and then released, then the Buddhist kingdom's penetration into the real world may be far deeper than he imagined. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. The first thing I thought of was the Western Holy See. In particular, the launch of the 12 Gods project made him even more suspicious that the Western Holy See had been infiltrated by the Buddhist kingdom and secretly controlled. Otherwise, with the overall strength of Western players, it would be impossible to obtain 12 ghost and god bodies. It seems he still has to go to the Western continent. The last time it was just for shock and to delay the expansion of the underworld, but this time, he had to go deep into the headquarters of the Western Holy See to search for any traces of the Buddhist kingdom. The underworld is his. It belongs to the underworld. Whether it is the Eastern continent or the Western world, they are all covered by the underworld. Thriller games cannot interfere, and the Buddhist kingdom cannot interfere. They are all adults, and they need both basic literacy. Just thinking about it? Another line of scarlet font appeared. It has been detected that the player king of Yama has reclaimed the Ming-Chen dynasty's Wuchen Tiangong, and has now obtained the permission to play the horror game. Reward, 10% authority. The player's current authority is 45%. Congratulations to the player, you have unlocked a new privilege. Game privileges, modify the mission system. Note, the player is the ultimate heir to the thriller game and can modify the player's main tasks and side tasks at will, and can randomly release new copy tasks. The designated player will complete them, and the rewards will be randomly distributed by the task initiator. See this? Shen Jian couldn't help but his eyes lit up. 45% of horror game users have the privilege to modify at will and publish dungeon missions. This is much better than the superior privilege. Although being superior to others is also a privilege, it is still limited by horror games. And this privilege of modifying tasks directly allows players to become the management of the game. Look at it this way. As the authority of thriller games increases, players have gradually moved from being restricted by thriller games, to bargaining with thriller games, then to becoming equals, and finally, to completely controlling thriller games. The route is clear. Shen Jian smiled. Smile very openly. He stretched out his hand and waved, let's go back to the underworld. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 920. At the same time. The West. Philo City. This is one of the 12 main cities in the Western continent. Before the revival of supernatural beings and the invasion of horror games, it was a continent with the most advanced technology in the world. Now that the supernatural has revived, Philo City still maintains its own advantages. As a city with a large number of Western ghost masters, this city has a very obvious advantage: it is the birthplace of the church. The city is full of devout believers. Relying on the beliefs and dogmas in their hearts, these believers were lucky enough to figure out how to control the ghost puzzle in the early stages of the ghost's recovery, and followed their own teachings to protect the innocent. Then more and more civilians and ghost controllers gathered in this. It has become the city with the largest population among the 12 major cities in the West. The female player with the ID Jana looked up at the largest church in Philo City and mentally recalled the basic information about the city. As a newly promoted 5-star player and a member of the 12 highest seats in the Holy See, the reason why she appears here is very simple. God is about to be born. The 12 Lord God's plan is about to usher in its initial results. She was going to witness all this and then pass the information to Shenjian. Brother, which God is this? How did you collect all the faith so quickly? At this time, the sound of a conversation reached her ears. She looked around. I saw two white people standing next to me. Both are players. One person's ID is Mike, his level is 56, he is a big white man, his face is extremely pale, it doesn't look like a normal white skin color at all, but like a ghost disguised as a human. The other person's ID is Jason, level 65, with brown hair and blue eyes, a high nose, and sunken eye sockets. He has a very standard appearance of a handsome Eastern European white guy, but underneath his handsomeness is a deep gloom. It was the former who spoke. Jana looked at it with dark eyes. Among these two people, the 5-star white player with the ID Jason is also one of the 12 seats. He is also the leader of the Holy Knights. His status in the Holy See is extremely high, second only to the number 1 player in the thriller game. Certainly. What she was more interested in was the other person's younger brother, a big white man with the ID Mike. Because she learned from Shenjian that he had placed an undercover agent into the Holy See to help him collect intelligence. That person's game ID was called Mike. In the Blood Monastery copy of the Holy City of the Eli Empire, the original person was occupied by an evil body. Identity: he inherited everything from the player and became a ghost with the identity of a horror game player. Yes. This Mike is a real ghost. Rather than a ghost master. In other words, this ghost is her accomplice in the Holy See. Jason looked gloomy and said, "It's the Seraphim Gabriel. The predecessor of Philo City is the cathedral. Since the resurrection of the supernatural, the Archangel Gabriel has become the belief of many believers, symbolizing wisdom and powerful. Among the 12 main gods, he also has the most faith in him. It is normal to be the first god to collect all the faith. Brother, can this really be successful? Using a human body to carry the power of faith in gods, and then controlling the bodies of ghosts and gods to turn yourself into a god. Are you sure that ghosts won't occupy people's consciousness and then come to the real world?" The evil person whose ID is Mike is listening in. As far as I know, the Dragon Kingdom's fallen angel organization carried out such a god-making project and created a ghost angel, but it seemed to be out of control in the end. It is impossible for human consciousness to compete with ghosts and gods. As time goes by, in the end, the ghost will bite you back. In this case, wouldn't we have resurrected a ghost that can destroy us? Jana's expression changed. Because this is also her doubt. Perhaps because she had just become the 12 seats, the information she had access to was still limited. In particular, she could only access 50 to 60% of the entire content of the 12 Lord God's plan. She had no idea how human consciousness could gain the upper hand in a confrontation with ghosts and gods. Jason paused. He seemed to be considering something. Then he spoke again. Dragon Kingdom is a backward place with too little understanding of the god-making project. The Fallen Angel organization is only a second-rate small organization. Without better conditions, there will naturally be various flaws. But we are different. For anyone who can completely control the body of ghosts and gods from a human body and suppress ghosts and gods at the level of consciousness, the Holy See is fully prepared, and that is the Rosary. That is a special supernatural thing. It has the ability to transfer consciousness. It can transfer the newly revived consciousness of the ghost's body to the Rosary, and then control the ghost's body. Of course, as time goes by, human consciousness will definitely be eroded, but according to the calculations of the Holy See, as long as a candidate with a pure mind is selected, human consciousness can last for at least 3 years. This time is enough. Hear this. Mike and Jana were both shocked. There is actually a way to solve the problem of ghosts and gods' consciousness. According to Jason, he might actually be able to control the bodies of ghosts and gods in a human body and become a real god. And it can last up to 3 years. This time is enough to drive everyone crazy. After all, it has only been more than 2 years since the invasion of Thriller Games. As long as the experiment on the first god is successful and the method of nourishing gods with gods is adopted, the Holy See will be able to create countless replicas of gods. By then, the Holy See will completely become the uncrowned king of this world. No one can stop it. Not even Shen Jian. Think of this. Jana understood the seriousness of the matter. She did not think that a single god, the so-called ghosts and gods, would be Shen Jian's opponent. Even if the 12 main gods appeared together, she felt that Shen Jian was unbeatable. But what if the number of ghosts and gods becomes more than a dozen, dozens, or hundreds? At that time, who dared to say that he was an opponent of the human sea tactic? A random punch could kill a master, let alone dozens of legendary ghosts and gods. Subconsciously, she opened the chat interface. I just want to tell this matter. Mike thought the same thing. As an evil body, he has already regarded Shen Jian as his life mentor and guiding light on the path of evil. If it weren't for Shen, how could he have possessed this body and freely entered and exited the horror world and the human world as a human being? And Shen Jian holds his most deadly handle, which is the secret that he is an evil body. No matter what, he can only stand on the same front as Shen Jian. Therefore, the urgency in his heart was no less than that of Jana. In the peripheral vision, their eyes collided and moved away inadvertently. Start telling each other your sincerity. Soon, the two had to look away. Because the creation of gods has begun. On the altar, when the balcony shines through the luxurious dome, the originally solemn and dark church suddenly adds a mysterious color, and the dome seems to become a door to heaven. Below the gate of heaven, a young man in his 20s stood at the altar. Wearing a pure white priest's robe, a cross on his chest, and a solemn face. The young man held a lifelike sculpture of a seraph in his hands. The sculpture seemed to have come alive. Every detail was impeccably made, especially the pair of eyes, which had a faint flow of golden light. After staring at them for a long time, there was even a kind of it was the sense of déjà vu of a living thing. Jana also looked stern. Creepy. Because she had just taken a few more glances at the seraph sculpture, the sculpture's eyes seemed to have turned towards her, staring at her, and then bleeding. That scene. Weird and penetrating. The container that collects faith is clearly a supernatural object that has been contaminated with the aura of a ghost. And that young man was the test subject of the container. Being raised by the church from a young age, he has lost his ability to think on his own and only knows how to be loyal to the church's machine. Only such a person can have the purest soul and be able to persist in consciousness for 3 years despite the erosion of evil spirits. Not long after, the ceremony begins. The young man held a knife, dug out his own eyes, pressed the 2 ghost eyes on the sculpture to the bleeding eye sockets, and pressed his forehead against the lifelike sculpture. Moment. A terrifying supernatural threat swept the entire place. The supernatural belief from the sculpture seemed to have found a medium and was continuously poured into the young man's body. The eyes of ghosts and gods that were pressed on the eye sockets also gradually revived at this moment, and the supernatural fluctuations began to recover little by little. Sheila. There was a sound of tearing clothes. There was a supernatural reaction behind the young man, and a pair of white wings grew out of thin air from the other's back. One pair after another. 6 pure white wings, symmetrical from left to right, covered the young man's back in an instant. The white wings spread out, driving the young man to float slowly in the air. The next second, the young man looked pained. His expression became ferocious. But the long period of brainwashing made him ignore the pain, and at the same time, he took out the rosary beads he had prepared and put them on his forehead. at once. Hearing only a fierce ghost's howl, the young man's expression suddenly returned to normal. He opened his eyes in confusion. He fanned the white wings on his back and slowly flew up to the dome of the sky. This moment, all the members of the Holy See who came to watch were stunned. His eyes became wild. Success. They literally created a god. The six-winged appearance is clearly the same as the seraph on the sculpture. Everything went as they expected. Archangel Gabriel was born. This is the first ghost and god belonging to the Holy See, but it is by no means the last. The other side. Shen Jian, who had just returned to the real world, quickly received a chat message. Jana, Your Majesty, it's not good. Mike, Director Shen, something bad is going on. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 921. Dragon Kingdom Daxia Dragon Bird Headquarters. What? A god has been born in the Holy See. When Instructor Gu learned the news for the first time, the entire conference room fell into dead silence. All the senior staff were shocked. There was a storm in my heart. Instructor Gu turned on the speakerphone, and a muffled voice came from the other end of the communicator. Yes, just 3 days ago, the cathedral in Philo City began a complete blockade and no tourists were allowed to enter. All 12 members who symbolized the highest authority of the Holy See were present. In addition to the uproarious god-making project, there were no other. There's nothing big that brings this group of people together. And just now, I witnessed a seraph flying out of the cathedral. In full view of the public, he claimed to be the Archangel Gabriel. In just a few minutes, the city of Philo was cleared and could not be processed. Vicious supernatural events. This even includes the large-scale supernatural event ranked third in the world's dangerous level, the SS-level supernatural event Ghost Call. In front of the Archangel Gabriel, the source of the ghost call only lasted for less than a minute. Completely dead. The miracles caused have spread crazily in the Western supernatural circle. The words fell. The Daxia Lonke executives present were shocked again. Just from the description, they could hear the horror of the Archangel Gabriel. For supernatural events with an SS level of danger, the source ghost behind them is at least above the Abyss level Ghost King, and may even reach the top level Ghost King. One of the reasons why the Western Holy See does not deal with it is that there is a huge disparity in power, making it impossible to deal with it or imprison it. The second is that the harm caused is not great, because the source ghost of the code name Ghost Call will only kill one person every 12 hours, and will only move to another area after killing all the humans in an area. Under the preparation of the Holy See, ghost calls will not have a greater impact on the West within more than 10 years. But now, such a ghost, which even the global ghost control organizations could not handle, was easily killed. The terror of gods is evident. No doubt. This Archangel Gabriel is a real ghost. It is an existence that currently stands above all human ghost masters. Too fast. How do they solve the problem of too strong consciousness of ghosts and gods? Is the gap between us and the Holy See really that big? A provincial leader growled unwillingly. He is also a ghost controller and a horror game player. His game level is as high as level 55. He is one of the few master players in the Dragon Kingdom. He has experienced at least dozens of copies of horror games. He is well informed, but he had never heard of any supernatural beings that could allow humans to defeat the consciousness of ghosts and gods. Even if it were true, how could a supernatural object of this level be accessible to human players? The two are inherently paradoxical. But the reality is that the Western Holy See has solved this problem. A ghost was successfully revived. Such a result is really difficult for them to accept. Although the West came into contact with the horror game half a year earlier than the Dragon Kingdom and had a head start, in the eyes of Daxia Lonke, their overall strength is just a little lower. With their massive population advantage, they are incomparable with the Western ghost controllers. The gap is constantly narrowing. But now it seems that the Western Holy See may have other secrets, and this secret is the real reason why the Western Holy See has been able to leave the Dragon Kingdom behind. No one at the top level here is a fool. Everyone thought of this possibility. Is it possible that there is a mythical force in the West? Myths such as Olympus, the seventh heaven of angels, and the underworld are reviving. A person in charge made his own guess. The Dragon Kingdom has the underworld, heaven, and major mythological systems. In addition, the recovery of the underworld has become the consensus of the Dragon Kingdom. Are similar myths beginning to recover in the West? What's more, the Western 12 Gods plan covers ancient Greek mythology, Nordic mythology, and the Bible. Is this a trend in the revival of Western mythology? Qian Quan immediately shook his head. Impossible. If the myth is really revived, then the Holy See will not adopt the god-making project organized by the fallen angels to mass-produce such false gods. They are said to be gods, but those wrapped in the name of gods are not. It's a complete ghost. Moreover, he said that there is no soil suitable for immortals and gods in this era. Those who can be revived are ghosts. At most, they can add the suffix god. This hymn, of course, refers to the one in Kingshi. At this point, everyone is tacitly aware of this. No one disbelieves his words. After all, that was the first yin god to resurrect from the underworld. He is also the Lord of Hell who only exists in myths and stories. His words represent authority. Do you want to tell Lord Yama about this? Someone else made a suggestion. Tell me, this gentleman seems to be very interested in these gods. Although the underworld is not afraid of any ghosts and gods, it is still necessary to understand the information in advance. The other side. Hades. Shen Jian returned to the real world as soon as he obtained the authority of Luo Fengtian in the 5th place. I only took Po Meng with me. The remaining 6 former members of the underworld stayed in the Bloody City to stabilize order and deliver fresh blood to the underworld that would become Yinzei. Shen Jian returned to the palace of Yama. Looking at Po Meng in front of him, he asked, "You have just walked around the underworld, what do you think?" He still valued Po Meng very much. Not only because only Po Meng can make Mengpo soup, but also because Po Meng was the first person to live in the underworld and know about the changes in the underworld in the mythical era. At this point, neither the city god, the mountain god, nor the shady handsome men who are both members of the old tribe of the underworld can compare to each other. Po Meng lowered her eyes and said sincerely, "Sir, with all due respect, today's underworld as a whole is not even 3/10 of what it was back then, but, I'm still impressed. My lord, when you said that the underworld was in ruins and there was only a lonely Yama temple left, I was actually desperate because the construction of the underworld cannot be done in a short time, but I was wrong. In less than 2 years, the basic construction of the underworld has been completed. Although the foundation is still shallow, the original underworld took thousands of years to develop to this scale. Now, I feel that within 100 years, Your Excellency, it can restore the underworld to its original glory. All this is due to adults." There was unconcealable surprise in Po Meng's tone. She wasn't flattering, but sincere admiration. Because the speed of reconstruction of the underworld has far exceeded her expectations. All 18 levels of hell are unlocked, all 10 Yama halls are unlocked, the city of wasted death is built, the gate of hell, the Huanquan road, the Nahi bridge, the forgotten river, the flower of the other shore, the 3 living stones, and the 6 paths of reincarnation are all there. In a trance. She even had a sense of déjà vu, feeling that this place was the former underworld. She couldn't imagine doing all this in just 2 years. The Lord of the underworld in front of me is too capable. If this trend continues, even if heaven recovers in the future, it may have to succumb to the underworld. Heaven, earth, human, earth will be the best. Even if she was allowed to praise such an achievement for 3 days and 3 nights, it would still not be able to express all her feelings. Hear the words. Shen Jian's expression did not change. As long as there is no problem, the underworld can run at any time now, but in order for the souls of the dead to be reincarnated, the most important link is missing, and that is Meng Po Tang. Hear this. Meng Po immediately said, "Sir, the real Meng Po soup needs to collect 7 kinds of tears, and also needs water from the Wangchuan River to cook it. It will take a month at the fastest to complete." Shen Jian nodded slightly. 1 month, that's just right. At the same time that Meng Po Tang was completed, he could almost bring back the fragments of the Sans Hung stone, turn the Buddhist kingdom upside down, and reclaim the authority of the 4th Luo Feng Tian. At this time, 2 chat messages came. Jana, Your Majesty, it's not good. Mike, Director Shen, something bad is going on. Shen Jian frowned slightly. King Yama, what's going on? Jana, Your Majesty, you asked me to always pay attention to the Holy Sea's plan for the 12 gods. Just today, the god-making project was completed, and an Archangel Gabriel was born in Philo City. This is an angel and ghost from the Dragon Kingdom. A more perfect work will have a stable period of 3 years. Within 3 years, this will be a ghost for the Holy See. Jana, Your Majesty, you have to pay attention, because once the Holy See succeeds, it will use all the power of the West to create as many such ghosts and gods as possible. Once the number increases, the size will be no less than that of the Eli Empire. Mike, Director Shen, mankind has actually revived a ghost and god that can be controlled by humans, and according to the original brother, as long as the ghost and god's body is sufficient, there are as many such artificial ghosts and gods as there are. I ask specifically about which one can control the ghost and god. Where did the rosary for consciousness transfer come from? The other party refused to tell me. He only said that it was not something I should know. Mike, Director Shen, I can take action and kill all the humans who have the rosary. Looking at the messages the two kept sending, Shen Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. He quickly grasped the key points from this pile of chat content. Rosary beads. This supernatural thing is the reason why the God-making project is perfect. Otherwise, once an angel is born, he will turn into a man-eating ghost within a few minutes. Completely out of control. It can transfer the consciousness of ghosts and gods. Obviously, such supernatural things are inaccessible to humans. The only way is to give it as a gift from the Buddhist kingdom. Just thinking about it? Another message came. Qian Quan, Mr. Shen, the angel is here. Shen Jian? He was slightly surprised. Does the West dare to let angels come to the East? Is this inflated? Or is there some conspiracy? He was also thinking about going to the West, but he didn't expect that the other party would come to his door. Think about it. Shen Jian walked out of the underworld. Just stepped out. I noticed that a terrifying supernatural wave was quickly entering the realm of Dragon Kingdom. The target is obviously the border of Dragon Kingdom. That is the jurisdictional boundary that the underworld has just laid down. Court death. Shen Jian whispered silently. End of chapter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 922. Okawa City. Located on the border of the Dragon Kingdom. It is separated from the western continent by a river. Zhou Xiao looked at the photos on the computer screen and fell into memories. In the photo, there is a figure standing on the scorched earth, with his back to all living beings. His profile is handsome, but it is filled with a kind of deep darkness. Staring at him, it is as if he is staring at the endless hell. She watched fascinated. This photo was taken more than half a year ago when she was traveling to Tongluo City in Taibin province. Then, she learned on the internet that many new city god temples were built in Ziping province and that many strange things happened. She wanted to go and see for herself how magical the city god temple was. Unfortunately, she personally visited the Chenghuang Temple in Tongluo City, but found nothing special. It was just a normal temple. However, just as she was returning home, the Chenghuang Temple was suddenly attacked. A group of vampire-like monsters with scarlet eyes and sharp fangs swarmed up, trying to break into the city god's temple and tear everything inside into pieces. She heard that tourists who were also besieged in the Chenghuang Temple said that it was a ghost. Monsters that only exist in ghost stories. And what is resisting the evil spirits outside is the underworld's underworld that also only exists in legends. Finally, the confrontation between the two sides ended with the underworld being outnumbered. Just when she thought she was going to die, a thunder exploded outside. She looked out the window. A purple thunder pierced the sky, landed above the city god's temple, and finally revealed a slender and majestic figure. The vampires, who were invincible to all the evil forces of the underworld, were powerless to resist in front of this figure. Thunder falls in the sky, and the gods travel. This is the most perfect interpretation of the original scene. At last, she secretly took a picture of the other party's profile with her camera, because she knew that this might be the closest she got to the gods. Thereafter, she has been endlessly collecting related miracles. Finally, she was sure that the figure she took the photo of was probably the Lord of Hell in the underworld. To this, she was very excited. Not only did she print out the photo and post it in her boudoir, she even changed the screensaver on her phone to this photo. At one point, her friends thought she was in love. All eyes are on the other person. And only she knew that it was the true face of God. She is lucky. As a mortal, I caught a glimpse of the face of God, was saved by the gods, and spent all my luck in this life. She even felt, even if I have bad luck in the future, it will still be worth it. Just thinking about it. Buzz. A violent sound of breaking through the air echoed. It was like a plane flying overhead, making a harsh noise. Zhou Xiao looked out the window. The pupils suddenly shrank. I saw a figure standing steadily above 100 meters in the sky. The 6 pure white wings fanning behind him are exactly the same as those of the legendary angels. I am the seraph angel Gabriel, the god of the dragon kingdom. Please come and see me. A loud but not sharp sound lingered over Dachuan city. That moment, the whole city was boiling. Countless people raised their heads blankly. His eyes were full of horror. 6 wings, angels. Can this world get better? Why did the Archangel Gabriel even show up? Are you sure this isn't some kind of joke? It's noisy. Holy shit. What's going on? Gabriel. The Archangel Gabriel recorded in the Bible. Are you kidding? I remember not long ago that an angel appeared in Ivy City. I remember there was a copy of the portrait, saying that the angel had been judged. I am from Ivy City, and I can tell you from my own experience that an angel really appeared and used a very strange ability to project his appearance into our minds. No matter how far apart we are, we can clearly see the angel's face. Face. I also heard that the original angel could eat people. He obviously had the characteristics of an angel, but he had the head of a devil. This seraph wouldn't be like this. I had a hard time moving here. It's too bad for you to step on the horse. There was a lot of discussion throughout Dachuan city. Especially when they heard that angels can eat people, many people panicked. They all fled back home. While carefully observing the movements of the angels high in the sky, I took photos and spread them on the internet. Just a few minutes. The news that a seraphim descended over Dachuan city, claiming to be the Archangel Gabriel, became a hot topic on the internet. Caught everyone's attention. Shock. The angel descends and the myth restarts. Shock. Alien creatures have appeared in the sky above Dachuan city. Is all this a loss of morality or a distortion of human nature? The angel appeared in Dachuan city and publicly shouted, "Let the god of the dragon kingdom appear." Archangel Gabriel, god of the dragon kingdom, get out. Shock. The angel openly provoked, saying that the gods of the dragon kingdom were all rubbish. Hot search. A large number of messages are added at a rate of 99 plus. Even the supernatural circle was stirred up by a storm. The appearance of the seraphim is like a bomb dropped into shallow water, causing thousands of waves. No one is paying attention to all this. Especially as horror game players and ghost masters, they are more aware of the value of angels. That is definitely a real ghost and god. It is a ghost that only exists in legends. It is an existence that players like them cannot touch in their lifetime. Who is the person in charge of Dachuan City? Are you there? Come out and give us a reply. In the paranormal forum, a pinned post was deliberately highlighted in red. Click in. A large number of forum owners called out to the person in charge of Dachuan City. I am here. Not long after, the person in charge of Dachuan City replied. The message was followed by a tearful expression. What happened? What is this ghost and god doing? The person in charge of Dachuan City, I don't know. He just shouted in public. He should be calling the city god of the underworld or the lord of hell, and then he stayed motionless. There is no danger for the time being, and I don't know if his killing pattern has not been triggered yet. Crying face. Where did he come from? There are not even a few top ghost kings in the real world. How could ghosts and gods come here so quickly? Looking at the direction, it seems to be coming from the west. A 4-star player just looked at this ghost and god through the telescope. The moment he saw the opponent's true appearance, he died on the spot, and the 3 ghosts in his body also died. It is suspected that the killing pattern of this ghost and god is if you look at his true appearance, you will die once he lowers his figure. The entire city of Dachuan may be wiped out in an instant. Saw this news. The faces of all the ghost masters in the Dragon Kingdom supernatural circle changed. If you see your true appearance, you will die. This killing rule is too overbearing. If the other party was published in the newspaper or photographed, wouldn't it only take one chance to spread the news, and more than 1/3 of the entire Dragon Kingdom's population would die? This is too dangerous. The so-called ghosts and gods are so terrifying. No doubt. This is a ghost that can easily wipe out a large number of people in the Dragon Kingdom. Hazard Level Assessment, SSS level. A national level disaster. Damn it, it came from the West? Could it be the product of the God-making project? Then why didn't this ghost and god go crazy in the West and become a ghost that only knows how to eat people? It seems that this ghost and god still has reason at all. Is it possible? Isn't it controllable? Some forum owners made speculations. See this. Many players' blood ran cold. It was broad daylight, but my hands and feet were cold. Because this sentence undoubtedly means that the West has left them far behind. While they were still preparing for the birth of another 5-star player to narrow the gap with the West, the Western world unexpectedly revealed that the 5-star players were no longer their top combat power. It's the ghosts and gods. How ridiculous. 5-star players are converted into fierce ghosts, and their terror level is above the Ghost King and below the Abyss level Ghost King. Follow this rule backwards. The upper limit of 6-star players should be below the top Ghost King. Only 7-star players can barely touch the threshold of ghosts and gods. 8 stars and above are the realm of ghosts and gods. The game level of a 5-star player is level 60. According to the standard of 1-star level at level 20, a 6-star player is only at level 80. Level 100 is a 7-star player. Only at level 120 or above can players upgrade the horror level to ghosts and gods. The current number 1 player in the world in horror games is only level 68. The gap between level 68 and level 120 is like heaven and earth. Look at it this way. It's strange that they are not cold-hearted. Because the gap is too big. It's so big that it can't be compensated at all. It's so big that everyone despairs. In this case, let alone them, even the official attitude is probably negative. We're hummed. Someone whispered in self-defeat. Person in charge of Dachuan, wait, it's here, it's finally here. Someone finally shows up in the underworld. It seems to be the Lord of Hell. I think we can still save him. As soon as these words came out, everyone suddenly woke up. Yes. They also have a foreign aid plug-in, hell. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigwa. Chapter 923. Western Holy See. At the round table. The members of the 12 seats took their seats one after another. This is a symbol of the highest authority of the Holy See. At the meeting, 7 people came in total. Among the 7 people, the youngest is the princess of the principality with the ID Jana, and the oldest is an old man in his 60s who is leaning on a cane and is about to wither. These 7 people are all 5-star players. Including the dead Adolf, Sam, and William, the number of 5-star players in the entire Western Holy See is as high as 10. This is the true heritage of the Holy See. In addition to the 7 5-star players, the remaining 5 vacancies are filled by the heads of several countries who were at the peak of power before the supernatural resurrection. These 12 people determine the development direction of the Holy See. At this time, not far from the round table, a huge screen came into view. What is shown above is an aerial view of Okawa City. At this time, a middle-aged man with a strong build, 3-dimensional facial features and blue eyes sat in the main seat. Everyone looked at him with a bit of fear. Nothing else. Just because the opponent's ID is Lord of Heaven and the game level is as high as 68. It is truly the first person to play horror games. He was also the first player selected by the horror game at the beginning of the supernatural revival invasion. The sequence is no one. It can be said. No one knows horror games better than him. No one knows what level of terror he has reached. But just being as high as level 68 is enough to show how powerful he is. The title of the number 1 horror game player is well deserved. Zack, the first person in the thriller game, spoke to break the silence on the field. How's the situation? Everything goes well. The Pope of Philo City Cathedral gracefully propped up his cane and stared at the big screen, the fire in his eyes lingering for a long time. After testing, Gabriel's mental state is very normal, and he has no desire to eat people. However, perhaps it is also due to this aspect that the angel body he controls has early developed the characteristics of a demon. Gabriel, the 6 wings are covered with spots like ghost eyes, and ordinary people will die on the spot even if they look at it. According to Gabriel, he cannot control the direction of the ghost eye's rotation. If he forcibly controls it, his consciousness will fall faster. I guess this should be related to the ghost eye puzzle he controls, even if he has a ghost rosary. Help and trickery have taken over the angel's body, but the ghost's habits still operate instinctively. The fragile will of human beings cannot be compared with the bodies of ghosts and gods. Once the ghost's habits are violated, the speed of the ghost transformation will be accelerated. Ideally, the stability period can be maintained for 3 years, but the premise is that it is not allowed to move outside. Otherwise it can only last up to half a year. Hear this. Everyone on the field was lost in thought. His brows furrowed. Compared with the original 3-year stable period, half a year is obviously not satisfactory to them. But it's not unacceptable. After all, Even if it only takes half a year, the terrifying strength of ghosts and gods is enough to help them rule the world. What's more, if one ghost and god can't do it, then 2, 3, 4. The only problem now is to deal with the factors that hinder their rule. Otherwise, no matter how many ghosts and gods there are, it will be useless. The blue-eyed man with the ID of Lord of Heaven had a cracked mouth from the corner of his mouth to his nose, looking like a real crack ghost. He let out a sinister laugh. How is Gabriel's brainwashing status? I don't want to, because of Gabriel's momentary wavering, he missed the best opportunity. The great Pope of Philo City also smiled sinisterly. Don't worry, Your Excellency, Gabriel will be our most loyal dog and will not hesitate in our orders. After all, the medicines and supernatural props I have spent over the years have not been in vain. Very good, then the plan officially begins. Listening to the gloomy expressions of everyone in the meeting, the female player with the ID Jana was shocked. When she knew that Archangel Gabriel was heading to the Dragon Kingdom, she already had an ominous premonition. After all, the Holy See is not a fool either. You don't know that the Dragon Kingdom has an underworld, a city god, and a king of hell. Sending a ghost and god there is just to send someone off. She understands such a simple truth. How could others in the Holy See not understand it? In this situation, still choosing to send Gabriel out is enough to show that the Holy See has other hidden plans. This hidden plan is the real killer move of the Holy See. And he believes that this plan can cause a fatal blow to the underworld. Think of this. Jana looked in disbelief. If the Holy See has mass-produced dozens or dozens of ghosts and gods at this time, it may indeed pose a threat to Shenjian, but what does one ghost and god mean? Besides Gabriel, what other stronger trump card does the Holy See have? It's noisy. This is absolutely impossible. Thinking, she immediately said, "What are you planning to do by letting Gabriel go to the Dragon Kingdom? Don't you know that there are real gods in the Dragon Kingdom? Even if you want to attack the Dragon Kingdom, you have to get at least the 12 main gods out, right?" Hear the words. There was silence for a moment. Zack, whose ID is Lord of Heaven, smiled. This plan was proposed together with the Lord God's plan. It was not put in writing to prevent it from being intercepted by some special supernatural props. And you were not 12 at the time. 11, it's normal not to know. Do you think the plan of the 12 Lord Gods can be hidden from the Dragon Kingdom? Jana was stunned. She immediately remembered that in the Yilai Empire copy, Shen Jian's condition for saving her was to know the full story of the 12 Lord Gods' plan. Then, she shook her head. No, although the Holy See has blocked the qualifications of people from the Dragon Kingdom to advance in the West, it is impossible to hide such a big thing. Even the Dragon Kingdom officials may have already known about Gabriel's existence. Zack cast an approving look. So, the Dragon Kingdom, or the so-called underworld, will never watch us take out all the 12 main gods, and will probably destroy it in advance. At that time, what do you think we can rely on to hold on? Jana's frown deepened. Of course she knows. Can't hold on. With the supreme power that Shen Jian showed in the northern border of the Yilai Empire, it was impossible for the Holy See to stop him, and there was not even the slightest strength left to resist. She also asked Shen Jian why he didn't just destroy the Holy See. The other party's argument is, he does not need a West that needs to be rebuilt, which will slow down the progress. Therefore, she was very puzzled by Zack's words. Can't hold on. She responded honestly. Zack stopped smiling and his expression turned ferocious. So, we need to take action in advance to destroy the Dragon Kingdom before the underworld is destroyed, so that the underworld has no time to take into account the changes in the Western world. Even killing the so-called city god, Prince of Hell, on the spot is not impossible, and what we paid was only one Gabriel. What a generous reward. Zack opened his hands and hugged his arms. with a sinister smile on his face. The grin on his lips became wider and wider. This crazy scene. Jana couldn't help but tremble in her heart. This Zack, the first person in the horror game, is his mental state really okay? If it weren't for the fact that the others were silent, she would have thought that the other person was a real ghost. Bloodthirsty and crazy. But she still swallowed and asked, "The Holy See, does it still have a trump card that can kill ghosts and gods? Even the gods of the underworld above the ghosts and gods?" Zack said no more. Instead, look at the big screen. If you watch it, you will know that this is definitely the biggest fireworks show you, or even the whole world, have ever seen. Okawa City. Gabriel stood 100 meters high in the sky, fanning 6 white wings, like a real angel. However, on those holy wings, scarlet ghost beads emerged one after another, constantly turning, and from time to time they would cast their scarlet eyes towards the city below. Every time he cast his gaze, a human who tried to glimpse the true face of the angel died on the spot. To this, Gabriel was unmoved. Ghost eyes are indifferent. Because in his worldview, the Dragon Kingdom is the source of evil, and the humans rooted here are all sinners. The human beings who died because of spying on him were undoubtedly those who could not withstand the baptism of God and were guilty of serious sins. Just waiting like this. Soon. There is movement in the distant sky. A golden light tore through the sky. The moment the golden light dissipated, the figure inside was revealed. It was Shenjian. He looked at the Archangel Gabriel in front of him with the same indifferent expression. The city god's temple is being built in Dachuan City, and there is no city god in charge yet. Otherwise, this seraph would not be able to cross the river bank and reach Dachuan City. And the moment Shenjian looked at it, the 6 wings behind Gabriel immediately opened more scarlet ghost eyes, which were densely covered with the angel's wings, and countless eyeballs projected the gaze of death. Enough to cause trypophobia. However, Shenjian was indifferent. The scarlet ghost stared even more vigorously, his eyes widened, and he looked like, "Why aren't you dead yet?" Shenjian ignored it. Looking at Gabriel in front of him with great interest, the ghostly voice sounded, "I heard that you want to see me. Hear this." Gabriel raised his head and stared at Shenjian. "You are guilty. I am the Archangel Gabriel, here to judge your sins. As the God of sinners, I give you the opportunity to choose to sacrifice yourself or the sinners below." There was no warmth in his voice. It looks like a ghost imitating human speech. But his thinking is still that of a human being. Humans are not human, ghosts are not ghosts, gods are not gods. The words fell. Gabriel raised his hand. A layer of ghost land was torn open. The items inside were revealed. There is a dim flame of Buddha's light lingering above it. Play some kind of special effect. At the same time, Shenjian also looked surprised. He said word by word, "Tactics, nuclear bomb. Yield. 1,000 tons. The words were left unfinished. Buzz. An extremely dazzling, violent, and bright enough light to blind a person's eyes pierced the eyes and descended into the world. Bang. Jana's eyes widened. He was so shocked that he slapped the table and stood up. The horrifying sound accompanied the nuclear explosion and sounded at the same time. Big Ivan. End of this chapter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 924. The moment when the nuclear bomb was actually detonated. Jana's pupils trembled violently and she stood up suddenly. A look of horror. She never expected that the Holy See's real trump card would be a tactical nuclear bomb, the Big Ivan with an yield of over 1,000 tons. No matter where a nuclear bomb of this level is detonated, the damage caused will be fatal. Within 100 kilometers, there are almost no humans or animals left. Within 150 kilometers, third-degree burns will occur on the human body. Within 200 kilometers, permanent damage will appear to the naked eye. One can imagine. What kind of terrifying killer weapon is Big Ivan of this level? It is definitely the most powerful destructive weapon in human history so far. Now, the Holy See was so crazy that it detonated this kind of nuclear bomb in the Dragon Kingdom. She saw it clearly. The height of Seraphim Gabriel is only about 100 meters. It can be seen with the naked eye. You can see clearly with the most common telescope or even a camera. If a 1,000-ton nuclear bomb is detonated at such a height, the entire Dachuan city will be buried with it, and even the two adjacent cities will be fatally affected. It became a dead city. This is no longer just crazy. Totally anti-human. Are they crazy? Want to start a nuclear war sweeping the world right now? But after just a moment of shock, Jana came to her senses, and her thoughts were running rapidly in her mind. Aren't modern thermal weapons ineffective against ghosts? In the last incident in Pharaoh City, there was also an immortal god carrying a pyramid and swaggering away. Pharaoh City deployed all its armed forces, but it could not do anything to the opponent. Unknown to the immortal, is it too reckless to launch a nuclear explosion when a god is immune to thermal weapons? Aside. The elder of the Holy Knights with the ID Jason said, "You are thinking very fast. Indeed, we cannot verify whether the gods in the underworld are immune to modern thermal weapons like ghosts. Therefore, the premise for us to detonate nuclear bombs is that gods' immunity to modern thermal weapons." Jana? She was slightly startled. Somewhat confused. Since it is determined that the gods of the underworld are immune to thermal weapons, then this move. Haha, Zach, whose ID is Lord of Heaven, chuckled sinisterly. Nuclear bombs are ineffective, but we can transfer the power of nuclear bombs through supernatural power into supernatural attacks that can cause fatal damage to ghosts. Hear this. Jana's heart was shocked and she subconsciously said, "That will-o'-the-wisp. Yes, this is a supernatural thing that I have been begging for a long time and finally got. As long as it is tempered by this ghost fire, even a stone can cause considerable damage to the ghost, let alone a devastating nuclear explosion." Zack smiled very sinisterly. "Don't talk about ghosts and gods, even real-world destroying ghosts and gods will fall into a state of panic due to fatal attacks without any defense. Although Gabriel was sacrificed, it was worth it if he could drag the gods of the underworld with him to be buried with him." The words fell. Everyone at the round table laughed. Happy that the plan came to fruition. One Gabriel can be used to exchange for a god from the underworld. The deal is worth it. Only Jana was like falling into an ice cave. "I just feel like the world is spinning. A will-o'-the-wisp can cause a nuclear bomb to explode into a supernatural attack that kills world-destroying ghosts and gods. How could such a supernatural thing be accessible to players? The same principle applies to the previous Ghost Rosary. This is completely beyond the reach of 5-star players. Zach, the number 1 player in the horror game, what exactly did he experience in the horror world, and what weird copies he came into contact with, to be able to obtain so many supernatural things that surpassed his original class? Even the Eli Empire may not be able to produce these things. Is it possible that the dungeon that Zach experienced could be more difficult than the Eli Empire? What's more, how did he, a human being, survive in such a difficult dungeon? All kinds of confusion linger in my mind. It made her thoughts become more and more confused. But she knew. Shenjian is in danger. Being caught off guard by such a supernatural attack, even if you have the power of the world, you will not be able to exert it at all. Did she lose the bet? The other side. Buzz. The brilliance that was more dazzling than a thunderbolt became the only brilliance in this world. Under the destructive power of an instant, time seemed to have lost its original meaning and seemed to be slowed down 10 times or 100 times. Unprecedented light and heat hit us. Nuclear explosion center. The air, dust, including the densely packed scarlet ghost eyes on Gabriel's 6 wings, all vaporized and evaporated in this instant, and disappeared completely without leaving any traces, with a sharp scream like a ghost crying or a wolf howling. At the same time, high-temperature radiation of tens to millions of degrees spreads rapidly. Completely submerged Shenjian and Gabriel. The first one to bear the brunt was the seraphim Gabriel, who was closest to the nuclear explosion. Under the supernatural transfer of the will-o'-the-wisp, Gabriel's wings began to crack. The raging high temperature and devastating impact ignited his body and melted his ghost body. The tip of my nose was filled with the stench of burned skin. When normal people face this kind of situation, as long as they still have a glimmer of hope and a chance to react, they will subconsciously take measures to protect themselves and escape from the scope of the nuclear explosion. However, Gabriel didn't. He was incinerated with a ferocious face. But he had no intention of escaping. On the contrary, some die calmly. Because there was a sentence echoing in his mind. If I were the devil, then I would be burned by the holy fire, if I were Gabriel, then the Lord would protect me. And now it seems he failed to withstand the test of the Lord. The holy fire continued to burn his body, dragging him into death. Since he is a devil, there is no need to live. With this thought, Gabriel died generously. Subsequently, he glanced at Shenjian from the corner of his eye. His originally silent expression suddenly widened. Under the extreme heat and impact of the explosion, the god of sinners stood motionless in the sea of fire. Even though the destructive energy washed over his body, he did not suffer any injuries. It was as if he was independent outside the 9 heavens, and nothing could corrode his body. This moment, Gabriel was stunned. The face that had been burned until only bones remained showed obvious shock for the first time. No. Why is this sinful God so damn fine? I, Seraphim Gabriel, the most devout believer, cannot withstand the test from the Lord. You, a sinful God in a sinful place, don't even believe in the Lord. How can you survive the Lord's test without any harm? This is absolutely impossible. Something must have gone wrong. Under the threat of death and Shenjian's abnormality, Gabriel's human emotions surged wildly. His eyes were split, and his vocal cords seemed to be at home, and he let out a low and dull roar. God of sin, why don't you accept the trial obediently? You should cry bitterly in repentance. I am the most devout believer of the Lord. False God, you deserve to die, why don't you die? Gabriel's roar continued. But more than 2/3 of his ghost body had been burned clean. Only one head was left, still screaming desperately. To this, Shenjian just glanced at the other party. Sobbing. The simplest bad mouth, the most extreme enjoyment. For a fanatical believer who has been transformed physically and mentally, nothing he can say can change the other person's mind, nor can it cause the other person's emotional fluctuations. In this situation, Shenjian would choose the simplest insult. Because the opponent will break the defense on his own. As expected. Gabriel? After hearing Shenjian's 2 words, which seemed to contain all the insulting adjectives in the world, his face became ferocious. What he said to Shenjian made him feel depressed. No matter what the other party says, he has the opportunity to refute. Only the word Shabai made him unable to refute. Because the insulting meaning of these 2 words is too clear, any rebuttal will be eclipsed in front of these 2 words. I want to scold him back, unless he says Shagu. But he is a believer in the Lord and the most devout believer in the Lord. Such low-level vocabulary is simply unacceptable, let alone cursed. Therefore, Gabriel's face turned red and his lips were trembling, but he couldn't say a word. My mentality just collapsed. Those hateful eyes seemed to say, you really deserve to die, you don't have any godly character at all, you just open your mouth when you have a bad mouth, it's so dirty. With such grief and anger that he wanted to tear Shenji Unsheng alive, Gabriel was completely burned. Not even the dregs are left. Shenji uncurled his lips. His eyes were silently staring at the sea of fire all over the sky and the nuclear explosion that would wipe Dazhu City off the map of Dragon Kingdom if even a single leak was revealed. His deep black eyes instantly turned into a deep whirlpool. Between the eyebrows, the marks of the seal of reincarnation gradually appeared. And Shen Jian's lips trembled. The voices of ghosts and gods resounded. The originally rapid and explosive destructive energy completely stopped at this moment. Time and space have lost their meaning at this moment. Heaven and earth have lost their movement. It was as if Shen Jian was the only one left in the whole world. He stepped out of the fire. 5 fingers flexed. The spread range of the stationary nuclear explosion is shrinking little by little. It's like there is a mirror that covers everything, gradually collapses, compresses into a point, and finally returns to nothingness. This is one of the active talents of the seal of samsara, GGE. More generally, space stops. Compared with the passive talent of the seal of reincarnation, which cannot be looked at directly and all worlds are unified, this great magical power requires the initiative to use the authority of Emperor Fendu. But the effect is not generally good. In the GGE state, wherever he looks, the space will be frozen, allowing him to fabricate it at will. Even this has touched upon the concept of time. Things frozen under GGE will still maintain their original appearance before being frozen when they are released. There won't be any damage. If you freeze a person with the talent of GGE and release him after 10,000 years, the other person will still maintain his vitality and lifespan. It is said that space stops, but it is more like time stopping. Do it all. Shen Jian looked as usual. It's like doing a trivial thing. Then he slowly looked up. Grinning, he made a mouth shape towards the satellite in the sky. You can see it if you look carefully. That's a sentence. I'm going to give you gifts. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 925. Western Holy See. At this time, the whole place was silent. Staring at the big screen blankly. The image from Gabriel's perspective had already lost the signal the moment the nuclear bomb was detonated. What is now projected on the screen is a real-time image from the satellite. In terms of satellites, both before and after the supernatural resurgence, the West was far ahead. Not only has it been upgraded, but it has also been researched on how to broadcast satellite images in real time despite the interference of the ghost magnetic field. That's why. Now, they saw real miracles. In the screen, the sea of fire spread out at a speed of tens of kilometers per second. Even the coverage efficiency of the ghost domain is not as fast as the burst of this destructive power. It can be said, once a nuclear bomb detonates, there is no way it can be stopped. But now, they saw it. At the center of the nuclear explosion, a figure walked out of the sea of fire as if walking on flat ground. With just a movement of his lips, the devastating impact that had swept dozens of kilometers stopped abruptly in mid-air. It seems. It's like time has been frozen for tens of kilometers. He was the only one left in the world. Subsequently, even more so. The sea of fire all over the sky collapsed layer by layer, and was directly compressed into a point, turning into an inconspicuous dust. This horse is still a human being? What a joke. Is the god of the Dragon Kingdom really so outrageous that he can even eliminate a nuclear explosion with the equivalent of 1,000 tons? This is the most powerful weapon capable of destroying mankind within a radius of 200 kilometers. At least you are acting more difficult. Move your mouth, then move your hands, and the nuclear explosion will be erased. Cheating is not such a method. Is there really no one to care about? Let's ban this cheater. This moment. The 12 members of the round table meeting were mentally disturbed. One by one stood up. He stared at the big screen, his eyes almost popping out. Shit, how is this possible? Even Gabriel was killed directly, which is enough to prove that nuclear bombs can pose a fatal threat to evil spirits. Why is he okay? Even if his terror level is higher than Gabriel's, it is impossible that there will be no impact at all. That's right. Some people can't accept this fact. He roared regardless of his image. Hell, according to the plan, the best result is to directly kill the god of the underworld, and the worst result is to cause damage and let the other party recuperate, but the other party is safe and sound. This is not within the scope of our consideration. What should we do? What to do? This sentence echoed in everyone's minds in the conference room. Who the hell knows? Who is a good person who makes plans with the goal of 100% failure? In their view, the worst result that can be accepted is to severely damage the gods, prevent the other party from extending its tentacles to the west, and give them time to complete the plan of the 12 main gods. But now, God is fine. These 3 words are simply a nightmare. They could not imagine how a god who had experienced a nuclear explosion and remained unscathed would deal with the Holy See. That is absolutely beyond their imagination. Especially when I saw on the big screen, God raised his head, stared at the sky, and his mouth moved silently. I'm here to find you. This sentence. It was basically said to them. God has already discovered them. They sent God a brilliant fireworks show. Now, God said, I will repay you. It was obviously a kind word, but it made everyone present feel cold all over. The chill started from the feet and went straight to the sky. I just felt a tremor in my heart. Suddenly, the Pope of the cathedral swallowed his saliva and looked at Zach on the main seat. He said hurriedly, Your Excellency, the plan failed completely and even Gabriel was killed. What should we do next? What is the backup plan? Since you can formulate a plan to nuclear explode the gods, you will not have no follow-up plans. 12 members. The corners of their mouths twitched. The scene fell into an eerie silence. This time, there really is no follow-up plan. This is meant to be an adventure. All follow-up plans are also centered around the heavy damage to the gods, and there is no time to take care of the West. Like this situation now. It was indeed brought up when they made the plan, but it was not included in the discussion. Because there is no solution. If the Holy See does not take action, it can only wait for the gods of the underworld to kill Gabriel and destroy the main temple they established. They had no choice but to make a plan for a nuclear explosion without considering what would happen if it failed. If they were considering failure, they would not make dangerous moves, but would wait obediently for the underworld to be recruited. Think of this. The other 12 members also looked at Zach. After all, the initiator of the nuclear explosion plan was Zach, and the ghost rosary and ghost fire were also provided by the other party. It can be said, Zach is the man in charge of this project. They couldn't think of any good solution, so they could only turn their attention to the first person in the horror game for help. For a long time. Finally someone noticed something was wrong. One of the nearest 5-star players touched Zach with a slit expression in surprise. The next second, the number 1 player in the horror game who was smiling sinisterly just a few minutes ago was now nothing more than a piece of human skin. A light touch. Unable to maintain the supernatural power, it turned into human skin and fell to the ground. Everyone was confused. He stared blankly at Zach, who was left with only a piece of human skin. Damn it! Did you humming run away? You are the initiator of the plan, you are the one who speaks loudly, you are the one who provides the props, you are the one who bets on the future of the Holy See, and now, you are the first one to escape, and you are the one who steps on the horse. Too grassy. Why are you so stupid? Running with a bucket is so slippery. Even if you stay and tell us your follow-up plans, it's not too late to escape. For a while. Everyone is messed up. I just feel like there are 100,000 grass and mud horses running through my mind. After all, Zock's extremely arrogant attitude a few minutes ago, as if he was strategizing and capable of killing world-destroying ghosts and gods from thousands of miles away, was really bluffing. A complete lunatic. Running away without saying a word and now are two extremes. Fortunately, they believed each other's evil intentions. After doing all the bad things, he left gracefully, but left all the mess to them. If I could do it again. They definitely slap each other in the face. So infuriating. Angry. The remaining 11 members also rolled their eyes. Although they didn't know where Zack had escaped, the general location was unmistakable, and that was the world of horror. Only by escaping to the horror world can we avoid being left alive in the ensuing wrath of the gods. However, the next moment, a row of scarlet panels suddenly appeared in front of them. Warn. Warn. Serious warning. It has been detected that the management of Thriller Game has modified the game permissions, and the rules have been modified. New rules: players who belong to the Western region and Northern region of Horror World are currently unable to enter the game. Copy: Horror World has refused your entry. It is detected that the modifier is not the manager of the Western region and the Northern region, and the speed of the rules taking effect is shortened. Effective time, 1 hour. When they saw this line of prompts, everyone in the conference room felt numb. Opened his mouth. Reject. Horror games deny them entry, even a copy of the game. At other times, this would undoubtedly be a huge surprise for players. But now, only fright. They only felt that the dead souls were dying. This line of scarlet text appeared sooner or later, but it happened to appear just when they were about to run away. If this was a coincidence, they would take the heads off and use them as chamber pots. No doubt. This was definitely done by the god from the underworld. The other party is the management of Thriller Games. It is also known as GM to players. This is blatant cheating. Before anyone arrived, they were given a 1-hour ban by the Western Ghost controller. Apparently, the other party also expected all this. The thought of this. Everyone's eyes unconsciously turned to where Zack was. Mad. Damn, Hundan definitely knows this. This way he didn't alert everyone, and he slipped away quietly the moment the nuclear explosion failed. And they are all big grievances. Just thinking about it. The Holy See headquarters has issued an alert. A staff member anxiously opened the door to the conference room and reported, "Chief, the air defense radar has detected an abnormal life form approaching the headquarters quickly. The speed is too fast and cannot be intercepted at all. What should be the next step?" The words have not yet fallen. No, the life form has arrived at the Holy See headquarters. The words fell. Buzz. Outside world. The main city where the Holy See headquarters is located. Thousands of armed men and ghost warriors who looked like a formidable enemy saw in shock. A great sun that hung 9 times in the sky was setting at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, they covered a distance of several kilometers and settled over the headquarters of the Holy See. In the city, a large number of white people, black people, mixed races, and Chinese people all raised their heads in horror, staring at the scene in the sky. Subsequently, the sun is gone. The slender figure inside was revealed. He has black hair and black eyes, handsome and indifferent features, and a blood-stained ghost rope is fluttering on his wrist. It added a bit of weirdness to him. At this time, the whole city fell into silence. It was as if the pause button had been pressed. The 12 members, symbolizing the highest authority of the Holy See, also walked out of the headquarters and looked up at the figure high in the sky. They want to cry but have no tears. I really want to say that they were also deceived by that piece of shit Zack. But no matter how they defend themselves, it is a definite fact that Shen Jian carried out the nuclear explosion plan, and nothing can change it. In this situation, even if you sell the Holy See, you can't let go of the relationship. Then they walked out of the headquarters. I was going to try to see if I could talk to Shen Jian to let them go. The other side. Shen Jian stood in mid-air, overlooking the city below. According to his original plan, he did not intend to touch the Holy See headquarters. This is the headquarters of the Western Ghost Controller Organization. Once destroyed, it is likely to make the situation in the Western world worse and fall into greater chaos. This would seriously slow down the progress of the underworld in occupying the West. But now, there is a shadow of the Buddhist kingdom behind the Western Holy See, and it is very likely that it has been secretly controlled by the Buddhist kingdom. In this situation, if we leave it alone, we don't know what trouble will happen. Just like the nuclear explosion just now, if he hadn't been there, any city god would have died on the spot. If this nuclear bomb is allowed to detonate over Qingxi, all his hard work in the past 2 years will be in vain. Such a result was unacceptable to him. Thinking, Shen Jian took his thoughts back. His eyes fell on the Holy See headquarters again. His eyes were full of desolation. The voices of ghosts and gods echoed in the sky. It's disrespectful to come back without reciprocating. If you send me a big fireball, then I will give you a big water ball. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chi Gua. Chapter 926. The West. Holy See headquarters. The whole city was dead silent. Everyone looked up in shock at the slender figure standing high in the sky like a god. No one spoke. Also completely speechless. Because that figure was just standing quietly high in the sky, exuding a sky-supporting aura from all over his body, like a giant, arrogant and unbridled. All people, whether they are white, black, or mixed race, whether they are ordinary people, ghost masters, or horror game players, all feel as if they are enveloped by a layer of invisible pressure, causing their heartbeats to contract violently. My back was bent a lot, and I didn't dare to raise my head to face God directly. At this time, a thought came to everyone's mind. Mortals are not allowed to look directly at God. It was not only psychological pressure, but also physical instinctive trembling. Crushing from different levels of life. This kind of crushing is completely unreasonable. Just like a rabbit encountering a Tyrannosaurus rex, it is a fear engraved in human genetic instincts. At this time, in front of the headquarters, the leader of the Holy Knights with the ID Jason walked out bravely. The gloomy expression on his face that had been corroded by evil spirits all year round was forced out of a forced smile at this moment. Your Majesty, all of this it's all Zock's fault. He came up with the Lord God plan, he came up with the nuclear explosion plan, he also provided the supernatural props, and he is the culprit for what happened today. No hesitation. He sold Zack out completely, blaming everything on the other person. After all, that's what they should have expected when this bitch sneaked away without notifying them. Your Majesty, if you plan to go find him, I know his real estate in Thriller World, and I can take you there. Hear the words. Shen Jian's expression did not change at all. Zack, the game ID Lord of Heaven, level 68, is the first person in the horror game, and he is also the first player to be pulled into the horror game. He recalled the information in his mind. After learning that the source behind the Western Holy See was probably the Kingdom of Buddhism, the first person he checked was the #1 person in the horror game in the Western world. but what can be found is basically public information, which is of little value. Now I hear this. It is completely confirmed that there is indeed an inextricable relationship between the first person in this thriller game and the Buddha kingdom. It is very likely that he is the spokesperson for the human world selected by the Buddhist kingdom. But he didn't believe that the infiltration of the Buddhist kingdom was that simple. In particular, there is no doubt about the brainwashing ability of the Buddhist kingdom. Except for Zack, or in other words, except the Buddhist kingdom, no one knows how many believers the other party has planted in the human world. So, the best way is, let the Holy See disappear. It's better to be leaderless than to have someone stabbing and causing trouble. Not to mention, now the underworld has expanded its jurisdiction to Dachuan City on the border of the Dragon Kingdom. In addition, he has successively recovered the second Luo Fengtian's Yilai Empire and the fifth Luo Fengtian's bloody capital. The number of yin difference has already it is no longer the key to restricting the development of the underworld. He can completely occupy the Western world while continuing to expand to other provinces of the Dragon Kingdom. In this way, expansion planning time can be cut in half. Shen Jian felt that the originally formulated 5-year plan could be shortened to 1 Kun year. Even after he has completely recovered the fourth Buddhist kingdom of Luo Fengtian, he can completely free up his hands to plow the Western world himself. Let the prestige of the underworld be deeply rooted in the hearts of the people, so that no one dared to resist. This way the expansion plan can be faster. Think of this. Shen Jian grinned. Lips touched, what you said is very sincere, but I don't listen. I prefer to blame others. The mistakes your family has made, your next door family, your friend's family, your father-in-law's family, your future daughter-in-law's family, you in the future, my great-grandson's wife's family will be implicated. Jason. He was stunned. Opened his mouth. It seemed that he did not expect to hear such an answer from Shen Jian. God, my great-grandson's wife will live in the future. Is this riding a horse to express anger? Isn't this the damn 10 clans implicated? Wrong. You are so special that you created the 11th clan. Grass. According to your method of expressing anger, if you kill just anyone on the street, you can kill more than half of the world's population. What about your demeanor as a god? What about the atmosphere that belongs to God? You are a god who is too down to earth, no, down to earth. At this time, Jason was completely out of ideas. His face turned green. The intestines are also regretful. If he had known this would happen, he would have pushed Zack into the toilet and rubbed him no matter what. He was ready to say something, but Shen Jian gave him no chance. The corners of his mouth widened. He showed a malicious smile. The big fireball you sent is full of modern craftsmanship, so I will give you a big water ball with retro craftsmanship. It just so happens that your Western master seems to be quite popular, so I will use the water drop technique to cool you down. Jason? Everyone? Water drop technique. Mage. Is there really such a thing as a master in this world? Isn't this stuff all fabricated entertainment? But then they thought about it. The mythical stories of the Dragon Kingdom can become reality, so who dares to say that the knights, priests, wizards, and mages in their Western novels will not become reality? The reason why is not. It's possible they just didn't find it. If there is magic in this world, then even if the Western Holy See is hit hard again today, they will have the opportunity to start from scratch, master the Western magic system, and have the possibility of killing gods. The question now is this definitely true? It couldn't be that this god was trying to take advantage of them. Before, they would naturally not question what God said, but now, they know that the god in front of them has a very bad character, so it is not impossible to make fun of them. Just thinking about it. Shen Jian had already taken out a black steel rod from his body. Then his lips moved. It seems to be singing magic. Damn it! Who is a good person who uses a steel rod as a staff? Think of yourself as the melee mage Gandalf. Besides, can you be more serious when you are fooling people? The resentment of all ghosts is gathered on this black steel rod. Just staring at it seems to be seeing the wails of all ghosts. It is obviously not a serious supernatural weapon. If you want to learn black magic, you need to use this evil staff. A staff? You are indeed serious, master? For a while, everyone twitched their lips. He had deep doubts about the profession of Master Shen Jian. It has been determined that Shen Jian is taking advantage of them. However, the next second, from Shen Jian's mouth, a deep chanting sound echoed in the sky. Wandering water spirit, please listen to my cry, swear by the water, in my name. Mysterious and profound chanting words were constantly uttered. The people below were stunned for a moment. This chant is so professional. It sounds just like the real thing. Could it be that this evil god is really not playing tricks on them, but really understands the magic system? Look! Water spirit! Sudden! Someone exclaimed. Others looked. The pupils also shrank sharply. High in the sky, blue light spots continued to gather around Shen Jian, like little elves that were so subtle that they were flying. Then look in the direction where the water elf is rising. Its source comes from the vast ocean on the side of the city. Along with the chanting, a large number of light spots began to rise on the sea. Is there really a water elf? OMG, magic is real. How do I know if I have an affinity for magic? You're 18 and you haven't become a magician yet. Is that normal? Why can't I catch the water elf? Am I a muggle? The sound of gasps echoed in the city. Everyone looked at the scene in shock. For a moment, they forgot that this magic was meant to attack them. Until Shen Jian's voice changed. Became faint. Come out, primary spell, water drop. The words fell. Everyone woke up immediately. His face turned pale. He looked towards the sky, but found nothing unusual. They slowly made a question mark. No. Where is your magic? Besides, elementary magic? Gan. Who are you looking down on? Even if you are a god, using basic magic is too disrespectful of us. What effect can a water drop spell have? Ordinary people may just release a few drops of rainwater. If God uses it, no matter how strong it is just like artificial rain. At best, this is just a heavy rain. What power can it have? That's what I thought. What the hell? A voice full of disbelief, fear, and panic sounded from the crowd. Look at the back. Following the direction of this trembling voice, everyone looked. For the first time, everyone's eyes widened and they were about to fall out of shock. I saw that the vast sea on one side of the city was boiling at this moment. The endless rivers and seas rose from all directions and converged crazily. In the blink of an eye, a mighty deep-sea torrent was formed, covering a radius of more than 1,000 meters. The void is rolling around. Just for a moment. A tsunami powerful enough to flood the entire city swept across. It seems that this most powerful main city in the west can be reduced to a land of marshes and turned into Venice on the water at any time. Looking at such a miraculous scene, whether it was an ordinary person or a ghost master, the look of shock on his face could not be concealed, and his heart seemed to jump out of his chest. Emma. This is called water drop technique? Is this horse riding a primary magic? Are you kidding, or is the world kidding? You call a big tsunami that can flood a city a big water balloon? It's noisy. Isn't this humming forbidden magic? The wrath of the water god? Forbidden ocean? The roar of the deep sea? It doesn't matter what you call it, just don't call it Shuadai. Who has ever seen water droplets as thick as a bucket? If this were to fall down, let alone people, even the most solid building would crack. Oh! We too will fall apart. Nothing bad. For a while. Panic spread. The whole city fell into chaos. Screaming, howling, begging for mercy, the sound is endless. Even the 12 members, headed by Jason, looked at the watery country that filled the sky, their faces turned blue and white, and they desperately fled back to the Holy See headquarters. I am afraid that if I take a step too slow, I will be drowned by this tsunami. The other side. Shen Jian looked indifferent. The voice was as cold as a spring, it flooded this place. Rumble. The next second. The earth-shaking roar of the sea was completely violent. I don't know how many thousands of tons, like an endless river, followed Shen Jian's words and poured down towards the city. Coerced with indescribable overwhelming pressure, this main western city was completely submerged. Houses collapsed, the earth tore apart, and the sky exploded. Even the headquarters of the Holy See, which symbolizes the strongest power in the West, fell into an isolated and helpless situation under this tsunami, with no remaining strength to resist. It's like a scene of doomsday natural disaster. End of chapter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 927. Rumble. Following Shen Jian's voice from the 9 heavens, it spread thousands of meters in radius, and the rolling river rising into the sky spread all over the sky for a while, like sea water pouring down, and the sparkling water waves reflected the sky, like a galaxy in the universe, forming a sea and sky. A magnificent and majestic scene of heaven and earth shining together. That is a real miracle. Another day. For a while. Raging storms, raging waves, rivers pouring in, and countless rain phenomena gush out together, just like the apocalyptic flood that is about to cleanse the world, sweeping in, overwhelmingly flooding the sky and the entire city. Tons of river water overwhelmed everything. Neither the earth nor the buildings exploded in suspense in the face of such an earth-shattering tsunami. One layer after another, continuous squeezing and erosion, even the Holy See headquarters built with the best Western skills collapsed at this moment. Just a washout. There are no tall buildings in the whole city. The river water poured into every building. A large amount of building debris floated up. The Holy See, which used to symbolize the highest masterpiece of the West, is no longer glorious. Looking at this scene, the leader of the Holy Knights, whose ID is Jason, is bleeding from the heart. Despair. Fear. Powerless. Shocked. All kinds of emotions lingered, and finally turned into annoyance. Beside him, the other 12 members also had different expressions. His eyes were full of complexity. It's over. It's all over. As 5-star players, they all had the Ghost Realm nearby, and they escaped immediately to the safe house developed by the Holy See headquarters, and thus survived. But what's the use? The Holy See is completely finished. Although Shen Jian only destroyed the Holy See headquarters, and the other branches in the main city are still there, the destruction of the headquarters undoubtedly means one thing: the Holy See has lost. Losing miserably. He was beaten into his home by gangsters, but he had no power to resist. At last, the house was even set on fire. In this situation, the prestige of the Holy See has plummeted almost predictably. It is very likely that you will fall into a desperate situation. In addition, the gods of the underworld were watching eagerly, and they destroyed the entire city with just one attack. Such great power. How could they, as ghost masters, resist? That's not a fight on the same level at all. Where is the future for Western players? That's what I thought. Boom. It was accompanied by a violent noise. They were in the safe house and suddenly felt the ground shaking. It felt like a big hand from the ground grabbed the safe house and lifted it into the air at high speed. As expected. When the door of the safe house was violently torn open, the 5-star players present saw that they were high in the sky, and the safe house below was grabbed by a big hand made of sea water and lifted up. Take another look. Directly opposite the safe house was the culprit who had just flooded a city, the god of the underworld. At the same time, Shen Jian was also looking at these Western players, and he could see the anger, humiliation, and panic in their eyes. To this, he looked calm. There was no sign of exhaustion or panting on his face. After all, he really didn't put much effort into it. It is said to be magic, but in fact it is the priestly talent of the lord of the second palace of the underworld, King Chujiang. In the fall of Nanlin province, the king of Chujiang could drain a city of water, and naturally he could also flood a city. Not to mention, there is a vast ocean next to it, full of help. Controlling the flow of water from the river is really a trivial matter. No technical content at all. Thinking. Shen Jian said in an indifferent voice, starting from today, the Holy See will be dissolved on the spot. If I see the Holy See organization in any city in the West, then I will flood that city. If Shui Yang is not satisfied, I also have an intermediate spell, Thunderbolt, and a high-level spell, Merciful Sunday. If you want to experience the forbidden spell -18th magnitude earthquake, I can also satisfy you. Everyone. They looked at each other. His face was a purple color. Enough. Do not talk. A basic water magic is like this, and the remaining intermediate, advanced, and forbidden magics, we can imagine just by thinking about them. These must also be powerful magical powers that can destroy the world. You'd better accept your magical powers. Here are all mortals, unable to withstand God's one-time pleasure. The faces of all the 5-star players turned the color of pig liver. I wanted to refute and express my determination not to be afraid of power, but after thinking about it, it was better to do less than to do more. If this damn god doesn't play his cards right and really gives them a chance to defy power, their ashes will have to be thrown into the sea now. Then, in a moment of shame, they nodded slowly. This heralds the end of the era of the Holy See. From now on, the world belongs to the underworld. The status of the Dragon Kingdom will also rise with the existence of the underworld, and it will overwhelm their western end. For those people who like to look down on the people of the Dragon Kingdom and think they are superior to others, this undoubtedly rubs salt into their wounds and makes them extremely aggrieved. But I can only dare to be angry and dare not speak. Second thing, where is Zack? Shen Jian, the old Shinto. He didn't care much about whether this group of Western ghost masters would abide by the rules. Anyway, if anyone disobeyed, he would throw a sun over and let this group of people experience the feeling of being exploded by a nuclear bomb. What he wanted to know more was news about Zack and the Buddha Kingdom. Hear this. The female player with the ID Jana stood up first, her eyes full of excitement, but just for a moment, she covered up the excitement and explained, Your Majesty, Zack has known for a long time before you were killed by a nuclear bomb, you had already slipped away quietly. We all suspect that he should have escaped to the horror world. There is actually very little detailed information about the traces of this first person in the horror game, but his initial arrival location is in the Xinquan district of the northern region of the horror world. This is a definite fact. He owns a number of properties, including but not limited to 6 1-star properties, 3 2-star properties, 1 3-star property, and 1 4-star property. In addition to the Xinquan district, the northern region also has the Silver Moon district, which can only be visited by 4-star players and above, and the Sun Yao district, which can be visited by 5-star players, so it will take time to find out exactly where he will escape. Janet told her all the information she knew. Then he looked at Jason. His eyes seemed to say, Is there anything else you need to add? Jason. You have already exposed the bottom of others. What else can I add? Why didn't I know before that the princess of the principality can also lick? He thought about it. Still confided, Zack also has a 4-star property in Silver Moon District. I don't know what happened after that. Although I was the fastest to catch up with him, I don't know why. Since he was in Silver Moon after the district obtained a new 4-star real estate, he was no longer interested in this kind of thing, and before the game level was reached, he skipped a level and entered the Sunyao district. After that, it was like cheating, and he became the 3rd player in the thriller game. A 5-star player has opened the way to the Deep Ghost Realm. After we finally became 5-star players and took root in the Deep Ghost Realm, he was one step ahead of all of us and disappeared into the Eli Empire. We guessed that he should have entered the Deep Ghost Realm of higher difficulty. Ghost Rosary and Ghost Fire are all obtained from the Deep Ghost Realm here. Hear the words. Shen Jian's eyes were slightly surprised. This Zack is quite capable. As the first player to enter the horror game, there is no shortcut in front of him. Every step must be to cross the river by feeling the stones. Under such harsh conditions, not only is he always ahead of other players, but he even gets the real estate. A lot to know. Clearing the dungeon and obtaining the real estate in the dungeon are not the same difficulty at all. The former just needs to follow the steps. The latter needs to obtain a high enough rating to have the opportunity to inherit the thriller game real estate. Especially for 4-star real estate, the upper limit of the ghost level for a 4-star dungeon is the abyss level. To obtain this property, the player's terror level will definitely not be lower than the abyss level, and may even be infinitely close to the top Ghost King. The number 1 horror game player indeed lives up to his name. With this strength, he is already qualified to compete for the city master of the initial game area. The other party's abnormality seems to have started from entering the Silver Moon district and acquiring the real estate in the game area. When he was still a 4-star player, he jumped into the sunlight zone where only 5-star players could set foot. In this environment, he quickly became a 5-star player and opened the way to Luo Fengtian. This is so smooth. So smooth that it's abnormal. As the king of the southern region, he naturally understands how difficult the last game area is. The Sunyao district, converted into the Jiangbei game area, is full of ghost kings. There are many abyss-level ghost kings, and top ghost kings are also rare. A 4-star player becomes a 5-star player under such harsh conditions, unless he fails. Not even Xiao Guo. Think of this. The interest in Shen Jian's eyes became even stronger. Look for him. You have to dig deep to find him. I only give you 1 month. If you can't find him, your value will only be the same. Subsequently, Shen Jian patted Jana on the shoulder. Leave it to you, work hard, dissolve the Holy See, disarm the armed forces, wait for the underworld to be recruited, and search for Zack, which must also be carried out simultaneously. When I am away, you will be responsible for all matters in the West. You will be the chief. Hear this. The rest of the people were stunned. He looked at Jana in shock. Damn it! It turns out that this is your purpose of actively cooperating with the enemy. The method is too dirty. We still wonder why you are so interested. I bet you are waiting for command. All of a sudden, from the bottom of the 12 members to the chief, in charge of all affairs in the West, they all became each other's subordinates. And want to do this. All you need to do is show your heart in front of Shen Jian. What's the difference between riding a horse and pie in the sky? Damn it! This woman must have 800 thoughts. To think of this so quickly. The faces of all the 5-star players turned dark. He stared at Jana with an expression of displeasure. To this, Jana didn't care. Your Majesty has won. She also made the right bet. Nowadays, there is no need to look at other people's faces. Not listening? Believe it or not, if I send a message, your city will usher in a large-scale fireworks show. He has big legs, so he is so bold and arrogant. Finish all this. Shen Jian did not stop. Return immediately. At the moment, he has one last big thing left. That is to unlock the last 6 paths of reincarnation, the path of gods. Completely obtain the status of Emperor Fengdu and become the true lord of the underworld. At present, he was just missing one last thing. Sans hung stone fragments. The location is located in the 4th place, Luo Fengtian, the Buddha's country. End of chapter.